folks, happy Friday. I want to try to get through some stuff quickly with you to give you some time in your groups with the project. By now you should have a completed entry slip, and I want to go over that with you, but I actually want to start by going over last night's homework. So if you could please take that out. It's the Module 12 Lesson 1 Post-War America questions. A lot of this we did talk about yesterday, but this is a good opportunity for you to make sure you have everything you need on your homework. Number 1, the GI Bill and the economy. So we could look at this in a few different ways. If you use the statistics from yesterday's notes, veterans were able to buy 20% of the houses that were built after the war. We know that 8 million veterans use the educational benefits to go back to school, and that likely means that they're getting better, higher paying jobs. That means they're able to spend more money, which is more money in circulation, which helps to improve the economy overall. And then we also have veterans that are taking out loans to open their own business. Again, that should be putting more money into circulation and improving the economy. Number 2, despite the economy doing well, there was a lot of labor unrest during this time, a lot of unhappy workers. Couple of things led to this. The biggest factor is that when the economy is doing well and prices are higher, what that means is that workers should theoretically be getting paid more because businesses are making more, but they weren't. So a lot of workers that are part of labor unions, like we talked about way earlier in the year, they're going to start going on strike to demand higher wages, in some instances better conditions. President Truman's going to do a couple different things to kind of put an end to this. There's a couple specific things he does. In the cases of miners going on strike, he actually put all the mines under the control of the government to put an end to that strike. In another, he threatened all the workers that were striking that he would draft them into the army. So it actually seemed better to just go ahead and go back to work than to potentially go to war. We also have Congress passing the Taft-Hartley Act, which was designed to make labor unions less powerful. And 3 ways that happened. Businesses that could hire only union members were outlawed. So that was the policy of some businesses, is that if you were a non-union, they wouldn't hire you. Well, that's no longer possible under the Taft-Hartley Act. It also allowed the president to order a cooling off period before a strike. The idea being that if you can't go on strike right away, hopefully there's more time to work out some sort of agreement so that we can avoid the strike altogether. And union leaders had to swear they weren't communists because, remember, from Wednesday, this is the Red Scare, and we don't want communists involved whatsoever. Moving on to the back, the election of 1948, which was an interesting one. Hopefully you read a little bit about Dewey defeating Truman, because that's a great story. President Truman introduces the Fair Deal, and some things included here: a higher minimum wage, a national health insurance plan, expanded Social Security benefits for the elderly, and then he tried to get some kind of federal protection for civil rights, like making it illegal to discriminate based on race, based on gender, etc. He wanted to put an end to racial discrimination in hiring in the workplace. Unfortunately, the Fair Deal was not very effective in this regard because Congress actually rejected the civil rights components of the Fair Deal, so they did not go into effect at all. So we included that chart on there because I thought you'd find it interesting to, reminisce about all the deals we've looked at. Teddy Roosevelt's Square Deal, the ever-popular New Deal that you wrote a whole paper about, and then bringing us to Truman's Fair Deal. The idea probably being that the other 2 from history had success, they were well known, and Truman kind of wanted to follow in those footsteps, so he named his the Fair Deal. All right, so I'm moving on to the entry slip, which you should have done by now. This was some more kind of specific follow-ups to the stuff that we looked at yesterday in class. So starting with the 1956 Highway Act, you have billions of dollars to construct 41,000 miles of interstate highways. Some good things: more business travel, more personal travel. You have the ability to live in the suburbs but still work in the city. You have a little bit more flexibility then as to where you raise a family, where you decide to settle down. On the flip side, there's some negatives that we can possibly infer from this too. It costs billions of dollars, so that's a government debt situation. We know today that more cars on the road would be, more pollution, of course, and the idea that some people had longer commutes, and that meant less time at home with the family. But we do also see, you might have thought of this, more businesses springing up, like fast food restaurants becoming more popular, gas stations, and that helps boost the economy as well when we have growing industry. The next page, so we have new housing construction, live births, and personal income. You should notice an upward trend on each one of these, and the strongest indicator of wealth, you can really argue any three of these. As people started making more money, they had the ability to buy houses, they had the ability to have more children, and this all shows that wealth was increasing overall. Last page is the interstate highway system. You should be able to look at the map and notice that we have a lot more density-wise on the eastern half of the United States. So you should be able to infer that there are more cities, larger cities, and more people that need to be connected on that side of the country. If you want to recap those things in writing, last night's homework you can find in the day 11 presentation if you missed anything or if I went a little bit quick for you. But I do want to move on to the rest of the day, which is a project. I'm not going to read the role prompt task all to you. What I want you to do first when you're done with the video is read through everything on there because it explains a little bit of our rationale behind this project, but I just kind of want to give you an overall idea of what you're going to be working on. So first of all, you are working in your table groups. For most of you, that's 4 people, and that's going to work out perfect. 3 people, no problem. 5 people groups, I think there's only 1, but I'm going to touch base with you on Monday about what you're going to do specifically. But essentially, we are going to take a TV show from the time period, from the 1950s, and we are going to write our own episode for that show and perform it in class. These 1950s TV shows, when you start looking at some samples, you'll notice that they're really meant to show people how idyllic and how perfect life was. You know, a lot of perfect family situations, living in the beautiful suburbs with their beautiful children and the pet dog and how great and happy everybody was and the economy's doing well. So it's really kind of a commentary of what everyone pictured the 1950s to be. When you read a little bit when you're doing your research, I think you'll find out that not everything was as perfect as it seemed, but these TV shows really took it to a level of wanting people to feel like everything was rosy. So, you are going to write a scene, an episode for a TV show of your choosing, and in your script, you're going to need to have examples that show us what society was like during the 50s, what the economy was like, what politics were like, and what the culture was like from the 1950s. That is 4 different lenses: social, economic, political, cultural. 4 people in a group. You're each going to take one of those to research and write as part of the script. This means you all get a separate grade. This means that if someone in your group doesn't do their lens, it's not on you. So that should hopefully take a little bit of the stress of the group project off of you. The next page is the rubric. You don't have to worry about that too much today. I really want to give you some ideas of where you can get started so that Monday when I'm back, we can address any of those kind of bigger questions. But the checklist is a really good place for you to start today. It is asking you to start by reading the textbook, pages 390 to 394. This hits everything: society, politics, economy, and culture in the 1950s. It mostly emphasizes the culture because that's a piece we haven't talked about yet. Also, On the Module 12 Lesson 3 page, which is brand new, there is a 1950s pop culture video. Watch that next. It's not on your checklist, but that's important. Then, on the same page, you'll find a list of 1950s TV shows. I want you to look those up on YouTube and find an episode to watch a few minutes of, look at a few different options, because you're going to pick one of those shows that you are writing an episode for. So I want you to get an idea of what we're looking for. Then, in your groups, you can start to brainstorm how you're going to write your script, what kind of things you need to include in there. Your research guide is on the back. Today, you should be able to at least get down the notes from your textbook reading. You should be able to figure out who's working on society, who's working on the economy, who's working on politics, and who's working on culture, and maybe even start getting some notes from that. Today, I think you really want to just spend most of your time in the research phase, watching the pop culture video, looking up the old TV shows and getting an idea of what they were like and how you're going to mimic that, and then maybe starting to decide how to put your script together. Now, I'm going to be back on Monday. You're going to have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to work. So for the most part, I can answer your questions when I'm back. Mr. Janikis is doing the same project, so he's someone you can always ask something to if it's a little more urgent. But other than that, I'll be back on Monday, and that's when you'll really get into like the script part of this and writing it. So just focus your time on kind of that initial research today, reading through everything, thinking of questions that you have, and then we'll touch base when I'm back on Monday. So good luck. I hope it's a great day, and I hope you enjoy your weekend, and then I'll see you on Monday.